When we think of divine justice, we expect the gods, with their wisdom and power, to always make the right decisions. But what if I told you that it hasn't always been that way? The conflict between Athena and Poseidon, which began long before the tragedy of Medusa, reveals that even among the gods, pride and rivalry can distort the concept of justice. Since their dispute over the city of Athens, the tension between these two deities grew until, one day, it exploded in a cruel way. Medusa, a devotee of Athena, was dragged into this conflict. But how did this rivalry culminate in such a merciless punishment for someone who only wanted to serve her goddess? And why did Athena choose not to punish Poseidon? Let's dive into this fascinating story and discover how an ancient conflict between two of the greatest Greek deities shaped Medusa's fate. Get ready, because what you're about to learn will challenge your beliefs about what is truly just. Medusa, a young woman of rare beauty, was not only known for the perfection of her features, but also for her devotion to the goddess Athena. She was part of a select group of priestesses, those who pledged purity and chastity, dedicating themselves entirely to divine service. For many, this was a life of sacrifice, something unattainable in the modern world. Imagine today, someone renouncing worldly pleasures to live under a strict code of discipline and spiritual dedication. The feeling of being apart from the world, without giving in to temptations, is something few can fully comprehend. Now, think about how this choice affected Medusa. She lived surrounded by looks of admiration, yet she never allowed herself to be touched by vanity. In the temple, her beauty was not a blessing but a constant source of challenges. How many times are we tempted to abandon our principles for something that attracts us? In her case, her discipline was her fortress, a strength many could apply in their own lives by resisting daily temptations. Staying true to one's values is something that, like Medusa, anyone can practice, whether in the workplace or relationships. Despite her beauty being a source of fascination, it was, at the same time, a kind of silent curse. While it attracted many, it also created enemies. And it's interesting to see how, often, what makes us stand out can also isolate us. So, the question arises, how far can one go without losing focus on their mission? Medusa's story, therefore, is a reflection on choices and sacrifices, themes we will continue to explore as the next events in her life unfold. Medusa, firm in her vows and devoted to her cause, never gave in to the advances of any man, no matter how powerful they were. However, the power and will of the gods often transcended human boundaries. Poseidon, the fearsome god of the seas, became obsessed with Medusa's beauty. He saw in her something he could never have, which only increased his desire. Think about how often what we cannot have becomes even more attractive. This is a common reflection in human dynamics. The more unattainable something seems, the more we desire it. Poseidon, even as a god, could not accept rejection, something many people may relate to in their own reality. How many times do we insist on something or someone clearly out of our reach? In this case, his obsession led him to commit a terrible act. He attacked Medusa in Athena's own temple, a place that should have been of protection. Here, there is a bitter lesson. Not always do those with power act with justice. This is a truth that transcends time and applies to our daily lives. Whether it's bosses, leaders, or even public figures who abuse their positions. Medusa, no matter how much she fought, was unable to stop the attack. And it's painful to think about how human fragility can be exploited, even when we do everything right. Just like her, many face situations where their voices are not heard, even when they stand up for their principles. So, what happens next? How will the consequence of this cruel act impact Medusa's life and her relationship with the world around her? After the tragic event in the temple, Athena, goddess of wisdom and protector of virgins, made an unexpected decision. Instead of directing her fury at Poseidon, the aggressor, Athena turned against Medusa. It's a fact that challenges our understanding of justice and prompts deep reflection. How often do we find ourselves punished for something beyond our control? Medusa, the victim, was transformed into a monstrous creature, with snakes for hair and the power to turn anyone who dared look at her into stone. With this curse, Athena took away the last thing Medusa still had, her beauty. This event makes us reflect on how, often, those who should protect us fail. Athena, a goddess who represented balance and justice, chose to punish Medusa, perhaps as a way to maintain divine order. How many of us have witnessed situations where the victims end up suffering more than the guilty? It reminds us of how unfair life can be and how we need to find strength even in the hardest moments. Medusa, now cursed, became a symbol of fear and despair, her pain invisible to a world that only saw her new monstrous appearance. With this, Medusa's life changed forever, and she isolated herself in a place where no one could find her. But what did this transformation mean for her? It was a second prison, one where, this time, no one could hurt her again. And yet, her story does not end here. What will unfold next? Who will be brave enough to face the creature that Medusa has become? Medusa's story, marked by pain and loneliness, found a tragic end at the hands of the hero Perseus. Armed with the help of the gods, he was sent to defeat the creature that so many feared. Medusa, who had already been punished in every possible way, now faced being the target of a determined warrior. Perseus, with his shield polished like a mirror, used cunning to avoid looking directly at her. And at that moment, we realize that often, strategy is the greatest weapon we can have. Just like him, how many times do we need to find clever solutions to problems that seem impossible to face? By decapitating Medusa, Perseus ended up freeing two powerful creatures, the winged horse Pegasus and the giant Chrysaor, who emerged from the spilled blood. And here we have a profound metaphor. Even in moments of destruction, something new and grand can be born. Medusa's death was not just an end, but also the beginning of new myths. Pegasus, a symbol of freedom and creativity, continues to inspire countless stories today. And this makes us think how often in our own lives, moments of pain and difficulty generate opportunities and strengths we never imagined we possessed. Finally, Medusa's head, even after her death, continued to be used as a weapon. Perseus carried it as a trophy, turning enemies into stone. And so Medusa, in a way, never stopped being a feared figure. Her death, therefore, did not erase her impact. She became part of Perseus' legend, but her own story continued to resonate through time. And you, how would you apply this story? How would you deal with situations that seem inescapable and turn them into something powerful? Medusa's story is not just an ancient tragedy. It's a reflection of how power and injustice can intertwine. And now, after understanding this entire conflict between Athena and Poseidon, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you let life's injustices paralyze you? Or will you use it as fuel to grow and face your own challenges strategically, just like Perseus? Medusa didn't have a choice, but you do. Think about all the times you faced a difficult situation. Are you ready to turn those stumbling blocks into opportunities, just like Perseus turned Medusa's head into a powerful weapon? And if you could, like him, find a new perspective on your challenges, let us know in the comments what you learned from this story and how it applies to your life. Oh, and don't forget, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss more fascinating stories like this one.